Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from USA Today for Friday, July 24th, 2026. Your reader for this hour is Chet Walczyk. I'm glad you're here with us. We'll kick it off with the weekend edition's cover section. And we'll bounce around with a few different topics, try to keep you interested. Some states auditing voter roll systems. Several states told USA Today they are examining whether a software program that allowed 6,600 non-citizens to register to vote in New Jersey could have done the same thing in their state. More than half of U.S. states and territories use the same vendor tied to a, quote, serious software error that registered 6,600 non-citizens to vote while they were getting driver's licenses, according to the vendor's website. New Jersey said July 21st that it was cutting ties with the vendor IDEMIA. USA Today contacted the 36 states and the U.S. Virgin Islands that have an IDEMIA contract covering at least part of the work performed at their DMVs, and found that states from Mississippi to Rhode Island are already reviewing their voter registration systems. One of the most prominent tech security companies, and based in France, IDEMIA is used nationwide for identity-related security services like TSA PreCheck, facial recognition, and mobile identification. In DMV agencies, IDEMIA's software assists with printing identification cards, taking photos, and collecting identifying data. New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill announced July 21st that as many as 6,600 non-U.S. citizens registered to vote in New Jersey in 2023 and 2024. In a statement July 21st, the company pushed back on New Jersey's claim of an error and said its role is to transmit information it captures from applicants, while it is up to secretaries of state to ensure that the information is accurate. And the company spokesperson, Lisa Shoemaker, told USA Today that failures like those experienced in New Jersey have not been seen elsewhere. In response to questions from USA Today, IDEMIA has retested and confirmed that the voter information capture functionality is operating as intended in the other jurisdictions it supports, said Shoemaker, an IDEMIA Senior Vice President for Global Corporate Relations. The incident comes just days after President Trump and Homeland Security Advisor Markwayne Mullin made broad allegations about the number of non-citizens registered to vote in the United States. Mullin said his agency had used publicly available information to identify more than 250,000 potential non-citizens illegally registered to vote in California, New Jersey, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. All of the states have denied the allegations. The administration has put increasing pressure on states to share voter rolls and rely on a newly created federal database that uses immigration data, Social Security information, and other sources to check whether people on their voter rolls can legally vote. Each state has a different contract with IDEMIA Civil Identity, giving the state access to a variety of its services. Not all states that use the company as part of the DMV have it collect and transmit voter registration information. In Missouri, like some other states, IDEMIA has a contract to issue identification cards, including driver's licenses, but it does not have the responsibility of determining whether someone is eligible to vote, said Jodan Cheney, a spokesperson for Missouri, which handles motor vehicle and licensing procedures. That responsibility falls to the Secretary of State's office. Cheney told USA Today, the way our system is set up is that we send IDEMIA a file that says, hey, produce these IDs, and then they, in fact, do that for us. What they do for other states, I don't know, Cheney said. Cheney said that after receiving a request for comment from USA Today, the Department of Revenue asked its Motor Vehicle and Driver Licensing Division to conduct a check of its systems to see if there was any issue that would be coming up because of your inquiry. At this point, Cheney said, we have found nothing out of the ordinary. Rhode Island State's Department Election Division has requested a meeting with the Division of Motor Vehicles and its vendor and asked for a full system review. At this time, there is no indication that a similar issue has occurred here. Since 2019, at the request of the Election Division of the state of Rhode Island, the Division of Motor Vehicles conducts a regular audit of randomized selection of DMV records to ensure that database entries match paper records, the division said. Idaho, along with 5 other states, is exempt from the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, which requires states to make registering to vote an option when getting identification because it offers Election Day voter registration. Still, Idaho Secretary of State Phil McGrain said the call from USA Today made him reach out to find out whether IDEMIA's system was used for voter registration at all. The DMV has a contract with IDEMIA, but does not do voter registrations. Illinois no longer uses IDEMIA for voter registration. So what happened in New Jersey? Sherrill said July 21st that the non-citizens involved had answered no to whether they were a U.S. citizen while applying for their driver's licenses and identification cards with the Motor Vehicle Commission, but were registered to vote anyway. All 50 states allow legally present non-citizens to obtain driver's licenses. Fewer than 400 of non-citizens actually voted in New Jersey, and they were registered as Democrats, Republicans, and unaffiliated in all parts of the state, although the investigation did not reveal the numbers for each of these affiliations. In her response, Shoemaker told USA Today that the 6,600 records submitted to New Jersey contained correct information according to the design specifications set out by the states. All 6,600 individuals indicated yes to wanting to register to vote and no to being a citizen, Shoemaker said. This information was recorded correctly and always available to the MVC via the database utilized to gather voter information and transmit to the Division of Elections. At no point was a non-citizen ever marked as a citizen in the database. Sherrill said the state's last administration should have made the mistake public when it noticed it. Fellow Democrat Phil Murphy was governor at the time. It is unacceptable that the vendor released software with such a glaring error, Sherrill said. It's unacceptable that the Motor Vehicle Commission took a year to get this issue fixed, and it's unacceptable that no one in the previous administration brought this to light, demanded accountability, or took action when it happened years ago. How about that? And switching gears a little bit, I found this story to be pretty cool. Wreckage of 1952 Pan Am flight found in the Atlantic. Wreckage of a Pan Am plane that crashed off Puerto Rico's coast nearly 75 years ago has been found on the ocean floor, search teams scouting for the long-lost aircraft announced on July 21st. The passenger aircraft, dubbed the Clipper Endeavour, crashed and sank into the Atlantic Ocean on April 11, 1952, just minutes after it took off from the island's eastern capital of San Juan. The plane, roughly the size of a modern Boeing 737, was bound for New York's Idlewild Airport, now JFK, when it suffered engine failure just after noon local time, according to the Pan Am Historical Foundation. It carried 64 passengers and 5 crew members. 17 people survived the crash. I've got some incredible breaking news to share. Josh Gates with the Discovery Channel's Expedition Unknown said July 21st in a video. Viewers may remember in 2024, we joined the search for the Pan Am Airways passenger plane. This accident changed aviation forever. It led to sweeping changes, including the introduction of the now mandatory pre-flight safety briefing. According to a news release, the Douglas DC-4 aircraft was discovered on the evening of June 2nd using high-resolution sonar. Gates said he and search teams from the nonprofit Air Sea Heritage Foundation and Deep Sea Vision, a water exploration company based in Charleston, South Carolina, located the plane's wreckage nearly 2,000 feet down on the ocean floor and largely intact. Under the command of veteran Captain John Byrne, the plane took off at 12:11 local time before suffering engine failure on its right side. All people aboard initially survived the impact, which sheared off the aircraft's tail but left the main cabin intact, the release reads. Yet, with no safety briefing provided, a significant language barrier, and no coordinated evacuation procedure in place, passengers faced chaos, confusion, and heavy seas as the aircraft flooded and sank in less than 3 minutes. Although the aircraft was equipped with life rafts and personal flotation devices for all on board, most of the passengers remained in their seats, the release continues. Despite swift and heroic action by rescue teams from the U.S. Coast Guard and Air Force, only 12 passengers and 5 crew members were saved. The Air Sea Heritage Foundation will work with Puerto Rico's government to expand protections for the wreck site and to create a memorial for those who died. More details about the discovery will be featured in an in-depth special episode of Expedition Unknown later this year, Gates said. You were listening to reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, and the time is 13 minutes after the hour. And I like these feel-good stories. 90-year-old doctor climbs Kilimanjaro. So, what mountains are you waiting to climb in life? For many, the question probably rings metaphorical. For Art Uleen, it's also literal. On July 13th, Uleen, a retired OBGYN, made history by becoming the oldest person to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, the highest mountain in Africa, and the tallest freestanding mountain in the world at about 19,000 feet above sea level. Uleen reached the summit on his 90th birthday, embarking on the 15-day trek in partnership with Care Scout, a company that helps older adults and families navigate aging. Uleen says his motivation for climbing Kilimanjaro was twofold. On the one hand, he wanted to do it for himself. On the other, he also wanted to show people what's still possible even in the latter parts of life. People ask, well, why are you doing this? And for me, mountains have become a metaphor for my life. Mountains have peaks and valleys. So does life. Ups and downs, he says. If you're not willing to climb the mountain, then you are missing so much of your potential. Uleen previously climbed Kilimanjaro with his wife when he was 75 and she was 72. This time, he embarked with a group and took extra precautions to account for his advanced age. All in all, the journey took 15 days, 11 and a half on the way up and 4 on the way down. I had to slow it down because, quite frankly, my legs just would not go any faster, Uleen says. We carried a chair, and they would pull out the chair every hour for me, and I would sit down and spend 5 to minutes and spend 5 to 10 minutes just trying to recover. No matter how arduous the climb got, Uleen says, he kept reminding himself that all he had to do was keep putting one foot in front of the other. It's how he surmounted many of life's obstacles, too. People ask me, how do you climb Kilimanjaro? The answer is one step at a time, he says. You put your left foot forward and you put your right foot in front of your left foot. And then you repeat that about 50,000 times. Kilimanjaro is not a simple walk. It involves rough and rocky terrain. The most challenging parts, Uline says, were the times he had to lift himself over large rocks. Coming down the mountain proved challenging too, as he had to control his descent lest he go tumbling down. But what awaited him at the top was a birthday he will never forget. I just collapsed with the summit, he says. I had a birthday party at the summit, a cake with icing, singing, dancing. So, after climbing Kilimanjaro at 90, what's next for Uline? Well, now he wants to focus on going down mountains, specifically skiing. He has already bought a season ski pass at Deer Valley in Utah and plans to take lessons with an 80-year-old instructor. He also wants to keep inspiring people to live the best they can, no matter their age. I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting that every older person should climb Mount Kilimanjaro, he says. What I tell him is, find your own mountain. Maybe it's an issue in life that's holding you back. Maybe it's something on your bucket list, something you've always wanted to do. So give it a try. It's an ethos that took Uline to the top of Kilimanjaro and one that will lead him through the rest of his days. I want to be in perfect health until the day I die, he says. When I die, I want them saying, what did he die of? He looked great yesterday. What a great guy, man. I'm going to keep that with me all day. And here's another cool story. Lucky us. Fans worry for Jackie the bald eagle. Jackie, the bald eagle of Big Bear Lake in Southern California, has always inspired awe. First, it was a handful of locals who watched her grow up, build nests, and create a life. Now, her fans number in the millions from all over the world thanks to a camera that has been live streaming her nest since 2015. Jackie's fans have watched the highs and lows of nature as she mates with her steadfast partner Shadow, lays or loses eggs, raises eaglets, fights off predators, braves winter storms, and hunts for fish. But never have Jackie's fans been more worried about the future as they are now. The 14-year-old bald eagle is 170 miles away from her home, being assessed and treated at the Ojai Raptor Center after being rescued following an altercation with two sub-adult eagles, though it seems she's suffering from something more complicated that preceded the fight. Video showed her apparently struggling out of water near the lake, looking far from the fierce mother her fans have come to know. The Raptor Center says that Jackie is in critical condition and underweight, with severe anemia and inflammation affecting her kidneys. They are awaiting further blood tests to help understand what's wrong with her. On the positive side, Jackie is eating and exhibiting spunk by fighting staff members working to care for her, according to Friends of Big Bear Valley, the group that runs Jackie's live stream and looks out for her and the rest of the eagle family. As Jackie's fans fret about her health and future, USA Today talked with a bald eagle expert in Alaska who treats as many as 150 of the majestic raptors every year. We found out what could be wrong with Jackie and what treatments she may undergo before she can hopefully get back home. Rodenticide and metal poisoning are among some of the worst threats to bald eagles all over the United States. Rodenticide poisoning happens when humans try to control populations of mice, rats, gophers, and other rodents using chemical agents to kill them. Bald eagles and other creatures, including mountain lions, coyotes, owls, and even household pets, can then eat the resulting dead rodents and become poisoned themselves, said Jennifer Cedarleaf, avian director at the Alaska Raptor Center. The result is agonizing, with animals slowly bleeding to death without treatment, she told USA Today. Poisoning from such metals as lead and zinc is just as bad. Bald eagles and other wildlife suffer great pain when they ingest things like lead from bullets or fishing weights, Cedarleaf said, adding that the treatment can be just as uncomfortable, likening it to chemotherapy for humans. It breaks my heart every time I see it, she said. It is absolutely the worst thing to see. Both conditions are treatable depending on the amount of toxins the eagle has ingested. But if it's too much, the most humane option for the raptors is euthanasia, she said. Last year, the Ojai Raptor Center successfully rehabbed and released a juvenile eagle suffering from rodenticide poisoning after providing vitamin K therapy. The eagle, suspected to be one of Jackie's offspring named Sunny, arrived at the facility in critical condition, so emaciated and weak that she couldn't hold her head up, the Raptor Center said. Her prognosis was very poor. Several months later, the eagle was back in the wild and now is flourishing. At the Alaska Raptor Center, Cedarleaf said that humans are responsible for most of the eagle injuries they treat. In addition to rodenticide and metal poisoning, they see eagles that have been electrocuted or otherwise hurt after running into power lines, hit by vehicles, shot against the law, or injured in leg hold traps meant for mink, martens, and wolves. Electrocutions and other power line injuries are tough to survive. Those injured by traps can be treated depending on the severity, including amputation, but gunshot wounds are frequently a death sentence, Cedarleaf said. The Ojai Raptor Center alone gets an average of 1 to 2 birds every week suffering from gunshot injuries, including a red-tailed hawk who had been shot 7 times and not only had to contend with those wounds, but also lead poisoning from the bullets. Not only are the injuries and the treatment itself incredibly traumatic to wildlife patients suffering gunshot wounds, but many raptors mate for life, and spring is the breeding season for many different species, including eagles and red-tailed hawks, the group said. After mated, red-tailed hawk pairs build their nest together. The female incubates the eggs while the males bring the female food. It is very unlikely that a single female or male can or will successfully incubate eggs while having to feed themselves and her babies alone, which is also the case for other raptor species. Why would someone want to shoot an amazing creature like a bald eagle or a red-tailed hawk? The same reason that children recently were found hitting a young great horned owl with baseball bats. The cruelty of humans is unbelievable, Cedarleaf said. Bald eagles also face injury or death from their own kind and other predatory birds. Their fights can be brutal. Cedarleaf recalled once having to separate 2 eagles who had been in a battle so fierce that they had the other bird's talons embedded in them. Sometimes eagles will lock talons in the air and spin downward, known as tumbling. Sometimes they let go in enough time, but sometimes they don't, and they hit the water or land, and one or both can die. Talon injuries can be treated with antibiotics. So, what's happening with Jackie now? The wildlife experts treating Jackie are awaiting blood work results and diagnostic test results that would likely show whether she could be suffering from rodenticide or metal poisoning. They say that x-rays showed no signs of metal objects such as fishing hooks. While the eagle remains alert and is eating, it is still too early to predict the outcome, the Ojai Raptor Center said. Wildlife medicine takes time, and some answers simply cannot be rushed. The uncertainty has eagle lovers stressing. Prayers that she pulls through this awfulness, Jackie lover Bonnie Lass wrote on the Raptor Center post. She is needed by Shadow and her eaglets, and so dearly loved by millions of people. Cedarleaf, who has experienced the joy of rehabbing wild eagles back to health and the agony of euthanizing those who can't be saved, said she doesn't have any inside knowledge of Jackie's troubles. But from where she's sitting, she doesn't think her fans should despair too much. I'm pretty hopeful, she said. I'm hopeful that she will get back out there. An amazing bird, the bald eagle. Philadelphia updates historical displays. The National Park Service has quietly updated a Philadelphia historic site by installing controversial displays that critics say downplay the brutality of slavery and gloss over President George Washington's enslavement of people. The new signs replace years-old displays that either were removed in early 2026 or were in limbo for months. The controversy involves extensive legal back and forth involving the Trump administration and the city of Philadelphia about the President's House, a site steps away from the Liberty Bell. In an emailed response to USA Today, the Department of Interior, which oversees the National Park Service, said it was happy with court rulings allowing the administration to change all exhibits. The new panels, it said, are full of historical context and highlight the momentous events that took place in the President's House and the other sites at Independence National Historical Park. The displays acknowledge the evils of slavery, including its injustices and hypocrisies, and, by telling the stories of the 9 slaves that Washington kept in the President's house, remind us of their essential humanity, the statement continued. The switch happened on July 14th as the city was hosting baseball's All-Star Game. USA Today visited the site on July 19th and saw a mix of locals and tourists. Armed National Park Police officers patrolled the area and a video surveillance system was in place. After the National Park Service initially removed the site's original displays, stories about the legal battle, anti-Trump messages, pro-preservation missives, and the text from the original displays were taped up on the walls at the site. In April, the National Park Service unveiled new panels in a post telling us at the time that they were meant to engage in meaningful conversations about the moments and places that have shaped our country. But Avenging the Ancestors Coalition, or ATAC, a group of activists, historians, and preservationists who had advocated for the acknowledgement of the enslaved people who lived and worked at the site, at the time called the administration's signage deeply offensive and said the changes represented yet another attempt to distort and censor American history. The National Park Service, acting on a March 2025 executive order from President Trump, removed the original displays in January. Those included information about the transatlantic slave trade, Washington's slave ownership, the brutality under which enslaved people labored, and how the early economy was propped up by the unpaid labor of enslaved people and indentured servants. The new panels focus on occupants of the President's house, where George Washington and John Adams lived while Philadelphia was the nation's capital. Other panels highlight Independence National Park, the executive branch, Philadelphia's role in the American Revolution, and how Americans have celebrated their independence since 1776. Meanwhile, the administration, the Interior Department, said encourages Americans to engage in meaningful conversations about the moments that have shaped our country. By telling the full story, every triumph, every challenge, and every step toward a more perfect union, we strengthen our shared understanding and ensure that future generations inherit not just the land we love, but the truth of the journey that brought us here. But activists say what the Trump administration calls truth is a distorted version of history. In a July 5th op-ed in the Philadelphia Inquirer, Michael Cord, founder of the Avenging the Ancestors Coalition, wrote that the new president's house racially whitewashes at best and racistly censors at worst the abject evil of slavery. You are listening to a reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 31 minutes after the hour, and we take a look at the opinion section for today. We have a piece written by Sarah Pequeño, and she is a columnist for USA Today, and you can follow her on the Blue Sky platform. And here's one that rings home for probably most of us. 30 is closer than ever. I might finally be ready. I hardly remember 30. Anyway, Miss Pequeño's piece. 2 decades ago, my mother sent a seemingly forgettable birthday card to a friend. Happy 29 plus birthday, she wrote inside. I asked her what she meant, knowing that her friend was well into her 30s. She explained what she saw as a fact of life. All women wish to be in their 20s forever, never crossing the threshold into old territory. It made sense. 29, the designated final age, was the year my mother had me. I turned 29 years old on July 19th, the oldest I will ever be if my mother's throwaway remark on a birthday card 20 years ago is to be believed. Thus begins the countdown to my 30s, when I might finally accept that the jokes about me being unk are true. I'm the first year of Gen Z, the generation born between 1997 and 2012. Gen Z is reportedly terrified of turning 30, the things that define adulthood, stable careers, homeownership, marriage, and children are no longer set milestones for 20-somethings. We are more likely than other generations to have a mental health diagnosis, which certainly adds to our feelings of despair and fear of the future. By 35, polling shows Gen Z thinks you are over the hill, baby. Despite the fact that many older adults believe that Generation Z is stuck in perpetual childhood, I can see that we are getting older. All of the boyfriends I've had to this point are married. The girl I celebrated my 13th birthday with has a newborn. The toddler I babysat in high school is 16 years old. I have become one of the oldest co-workers in the newsroom, the friend who finished school before the COVID-19 pandemic began, the person who remembers what it was like on Instagram before Mark Zuckerberg bought it. There are parts of me that I haven't changed since I was a teenager. My eyeliner, the jet black wings framing my face most days, has remained unchanged since freshman year of high school. I have the same Instagram and Facebook accounts I created in my childhood bedroom. My music taste remains rooted in the indie pop, alt-rock genres. Yet, my life looks drastically different than it did at 15, 20, or even 25 years old. I spent my teenage years wishing to be older, wiser, and far away from my hometown. At 17, my first therapist told me that I wouldn't be the girl living in her childhood home for the rest of her life. I knew this to a degree, if only because my mother's favorite pastime was looking at real estate listings online. None of these homes would be ours. The 2008 recession had hit my family like it did everyone else, and we were still in the process of recovering from it. For the most part, I thought I was doomed to haunt my childhood home forever. Then I got into college, a few colleges, all far away from my small town and holding the promise of a new life. My life could really change. I didn't have to be the teenage girl I once believed I was doomed to be for all eternity. It felt as though my life could begin. I thought I knew everything at 20. I thought my world was always going to look the way it did then. I woke up on my 20th birthday in the bed of a man who wasn't quite my boyfriend. I went to my summer class, Introduction to Politics, then went to my magazine internship. It was about that age that I realized writing was the thing I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing. I was learning that my words could resonate with people, even if it was just blog posts about my hometown and college life. A few months later, I was hospitalized for depression. I checked myself in on a Saturday, the same day as a college football game where I was expected to be at my restaurant job. I showed up to the emergency room in a short denim skirt and makeup running down my face. Through tears, I told the nurse checking me in that I no longer wanted to be here. My 20-year-old self was too sad to think about what she wanted 30 to look like. She didn't think she'd live long enough to see it. She certainly didn't think she'd be entering the final year of her 20s living in New York City, writing for a living, and enjoying her free time with a group of friends who understand her. At some point in the past 9 years, amid therapy sessions, a few different medications, and a lot of growing up, I stopped wanting to die so much and started living. I now live my life as close to what teenage me would have wanted. I like to think she would find me cool. The girl who once reblogged photos of New York City on Tumblr finally moved there days after turning 26. She came out to herself that year. She got sober at 27. At 28, she realized she was finally becoming comfortable in her skin. She no longer feels the sting of her college love life, of the friends she lost, or the grades she got. To any member of Gen Z scared about the future, I want you to know that time, the only constant in this world, will heal you. No, seriously, it does. The thing you feel is defining your life at 17 will not define your life at 20, and whatever defines your life at that age will be long forgotten by the time you're 25. Maybe by 29, you will realize you are becoming the person you always dreamed of being, even if it took a little longer than you wanted it to. Despite what my mother once told me all those years ago, I no longer feel like 29 is the oldest I will ever be. I feel like it's just the beginning. Well, good for her. Life is good. For me, the 30s were good. The 40s were good. The 50s were good. And I'm still good. You are listening to reading of today's issue of USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, where the time is 38 minutes after the hour. And we turn to the money section for Friday, July 24th, which on Fridays is usually travel and tourism time. So let's see what they have to offer us today. Avoiding travel woes. This is a piece written by Josh Rivera, a USA Today travel writer, under the title, Mistakes Travelers Made and the Lessons Learned. Stories range from the funny to downright unbelievable. Travel rarely goes exactly as planned. Flights get delayed, luggage disappears, phones vanish, and sometimes a single overlooked detail can throw an entire vacation off course. We are not immune to mishaps. USA Today staffers shared our worst travel mistakes and the lessons we learned. Then, we asked you to share the worst travel mistakes you've experienced, and more importantly, what you learned from them. The stories below range from frustrating to funny to downright unbelievable, but each comes with a practical takeaway that could help another traveler avoid the same fate. Consider them hard-earned lessons from people who have already made the mistakes so you don't have to. They have been edited for length and clarity. Number 1. The 10 minutes that impacted an entire trip. I am 83 and planned a European cruise with one of my granddaughters for her 30th birthday. A delayed flight and missing wheelchair assistance caused me to miss my connection by 10 minutes. I was rebooked without business class and arrived in London without sleep. My luggage was also missing until an hour before the ship departed. I had been without sleep for 38 hours and never truly recovered, so I missed most of the cruise sights. Travelocity and British Airways say they owe me no refund for the business class portion. Lesson learned: never book through a third-party site again. Always use the airline itself. Pack more things in your carry-on, just in case. Number 2, the cruise from hell. My friend and I had a goal of seeing all 63 national parks, with only the U.S. Virgin Islands and American Samoa left. We booked a Royal Caribbean cruise with St. Thomas on the itinerary so we could visit the Virgin Islands National Park. After canceled flights, we flew to Orlando and drove 4 hours to the port. At check-in, we learned high winds had caused St. Thomas to be dropped. 4 days into the 7-day cruise, my wife came down with type A flu and was quarantined in a small, windowless cabin. We called it the cruise from hell. Lesson learned: when things go wrong, just accept it and roll with the punches. Number 3, secure the bags. My family of 4 used the ride storage boxes at Six Flags Magic Mountain for our 2 belt bags. When we got off the ride, they were gone. The bags contained 3 new iPhones, our rental car key, medication, jewelry, licenses, credit cards, and other valuables. We had to unlock and tow our rental car, get new credit cards, address a fraudulent purchase, and fly home without IDs. The stolen bags and resulting travel trouble cost us more than $5,000. Six Flags later gave us 4 annual passes with meal plans, and we returned for a great trip. Lesson learned: purchase AppleCare and travel insurance, wear shorts with deep pockets, and never used theme park ride storage boxes. Number 4, pack a snack. Get coffee and eat before you fly on Austrian Airlines. We had an early flight from Vienna to Heathrow, and my husband expected coffee on the plane. Nope, only bottled water and chocolate. At Heathrow, we did not stop to eat before getting stuck on a huge tube line due to a rail outage. Our phones were not working because Verizon had a major UK and European outage. My diabetic husband then tripped over our suitcases and was injured. We eventually reached a coffee shop and our bed and breakfast, and a local massage helped his injury. Lesson learned: don't push yourself. Stop to eat or carry snacks. Don't count on foreign airlines to serve coffee. Number 5, back up your phone while traveling. I left my phone on a plane while transferring in Singapore, although I realized almost immediately we were past the point of no return. Security was supposed to go to the plane, but it was gone by then. We contacted family in the United States using another phone and had my account locked and disabled, so there was no security issue. We lost our planned day in Singapore dealing with a phone, which was not worth it. I also lost photos from our last morning in the Maldives because they had not backed up. Lesson learned: take a moment to collect yourself when traveling. Don't rush. Secure your devices and make sure your photos are backing up. Number 6, airline pet. Underline pet peeves. When traveling home from Europe with my cat, Tugs, I put her in the pet area under the plane. Lufthansa handled everything well. In Washington, however, United Airlines directed me across a busy highway to a separate, strangely unmarked building. A taxi driver circled repeatedly while we searched. Once there, I was told the crate I bought for air travel was substandard. For an extra charge, an employee drilled and modified it. After paying several $100s, the taxi driver rushed me back to the terminal. I barely made the flight, praying Tugs was safely aboard, and yes, she was. Lesson learned: never assume partner airlines have the same pet travel policies. Check both websites and maybe even give them a call. Number 7. Did you bring an extra phone? During a recent hiking trip in Germany, my iPhone completed a routine operating system update. Because it happened in a foreign country, Apple required me to reactivate the phone using my Apple ID and password. I had moved all my passwords to a password manager, so the password was impossible to remember. Because my phone was locked, I could not access the password manager either. My phone remained locked for the trip, leaving me without internet or email for about 2 weeks. Fortunately, my travel companions could navigate and communicate with their phones. Lesson learned: make sure you have another way to access key passwords when traveling, especially international. Number 8. A lot more time than you need. On the way to Athens for a cruise, delayed wheelchair assistance caused us to miss our Frankfurt connection. Further weather and computer system delays followed. We boarded another plane by bus and stairs, only to have the flight canceled. Wheelchair assistance then forgot about us, and an employee accused me of trying to steal an idle wheelchair. After 15 hours in the airport, we received hotel vouchers and caught a flight the next morning. Our checked walker did not arrive, but the airline sent it to the cruise's first island stop, where ship personnel retrieved it for $93. Lesson learned: a 2-hour Frankfurt connection with a mobility challenged traveler is a no-go. Even 24 hours may not be enough before an overseas cruise. Number 9. Bring backup documentation. During the middle of the COVID-19 crisis, I arrived at Heathrow from Dulles and was told I could not continue to Abu Dhabi because I did not have the correct COVID card. American Airlines had checked my card in Dulles before I left. Nearby airport hotels were full, so I spent the night in the basement of Heathrow Terminal 3 and returned to Dulles the next day. I had planned to fly to Socotra from the UAE, but the flight only departs once a week, so I have yet to go. Lesson learned: do not fly through Heathrow. I can tell you some Heathrow stories also, man. The place is crazy. Number 10, remember those time zones. On a trip to Australia 30 years ago, I forgot about the international date line. When we arrived, we made our way to the carrier for a flight to Cairn and presented our travel vouchers. The lovely lady told us she would love to assist, but the plane had left yesterday. It was a rookie mistake, but they took pity on us and rebooked us for a slight charge. Lesson learned: if you're doing your own travel planning, read and research enough to make a workable plan. Number 11, stay near the airport. In May 1980, we flew from Cozumel to Cancun to catch a United Rewards flight home. Our early flight was consolidated, then delayed by storm. When we landed, we saw our United plane pulling away. It was Memorial Day weekend and flights were full. After 3 days, I saw someone hand an Aeromexico agent cash and received tickets. I pulled out cash, asked again, and got seats to Miami. In Miami, United took pity on us and booked us home on our reward tickets through Las Vegas and Honolulu. Lesson learned: spend the night near the departure airport before a morning flight and realize that in some places the mordida may be necessary. And that means always carry cash, cash is king. Number 12. Passport control can be strenuous. We recently flew into Brussels from Newark. The passport control line was easily 2 hours long. I almost passed out from the heat and lack of air conditioning, so I was wheeled to a crew desk. It was ridiculous. Lesson learned: do not fly into Brussels from anywhere in the U.S. And lastly, be proactive. We plan to fly to Las Vegas on Christmas morning to surprise our mother for her 92nd birthday. That was the day the entire Southwest system crashed. We waited all day as the departure time changed repeatedly, but the flight never left. She died 6 weeks later. My wife later flew down and was thankfully at her side when she passed. We will never forget spending Christmas Day on the airport floor waiting for a flight that never happened. We should have switched airlines, but the gate agent kept telling us the flight would leave later. Lesson learned: never trust only what the gate agent tells you. Be proactive, not reactive. Ship's GI outbreak sickens passengers. Where have we heard this story before? Anyway, nearly 20 people got sick with gastrointestinal illness on a National Geographic Lindblad expedition ship, the vessel's third outbreak in less than 2 months. Has anybody cleaned this boat? Among the 62 guests on board, 18 reported being ill during the National Geographic Seabird's July 10th voyage, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Their main symptoms were abdominal cramps and, you guessed it, vomiting. The cause is unknown. The ship is operating in Alaska, according to Cruise Mapper. The cruise company implemented heightened cleaning and disinfection measures and isolated sick passengers, among other steps, the health agency said on its website. National Geographic Lindblad Expeditions did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The news comes after 2 other outbreaks on the same ship during cruises in June and May. Both were caused by norovirus. The CDC said in an email that norovirus is behind more than 90% of cruise gastrointestinal illness outbreaks with a confirmed cause. People joining the cruise ship may bring the virus to other passengers and crew, the agency said. Characteristics of norovirus that facilitate outbreaks include a low infective dose, easy person-to-person transmissibility, prolonged viral shedding, absence of long-term immunity, the ability of the virus to survive routine cleaning procedures, and the absence of a vaccine. The CDC has logged 8 outbreaks of gastrointestinal illness on cruises that met its threshold for public notification this year. 2 were caused by E. coli, and norovirus was listed as the cause of 5. 23 outbreaks that met that threshold in 2025, 18 of which were also caused by norovirus. Norovirus also was behind 15 out of 18 outbreaks the year before. The illness is often associated with cruise ships, but those instances account for only 1% of all reported outbreaks. Outbreaks are often taking place within the community, and oftentimes we don't know that they're happening. Sarah Michaels, an assistant professor at Tulane University School of Public Health, told USA Today. Really, when we have these areas where people are in really close contact, things like daycare facilities, nursing homes, and cruise ships, it's more likely to be diagnosed, reported, and brought to our attention. United says report about airport changes over Trump are not true. United Airlines is pushing back on a report that said passengers could change their destination airport at no charge if they object to flying into Florida's newly renamed President Donald J. Trump International Airport. Live and Let's Fly, an airline industry blog, published what it described as an internal memo telling reservation agents they could offer alternatives, such as Fort Lauderdale or Miami, to customers who did not want to fly into the airport. United told USA Today the message was poorly worded and not accurate. United customers are able to make changes to a ticket without a fee for many reasons, it said, but its policy does not allow for changes because of an airport's name or three-letter code. That statement leaves some room for agents to accommodate travelers under United's existing change policies, but the airline said an objection to the airport's name or code is not by itself an official reason for a fee-free change. So get over it. You are listening to reading of articles and features from USA Today for Friday, Friday, July 24th on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We will return for more readings after this short break. Your reader for this hour has been me, Chet Walczyk. I'm glad you were with us. I hope you have a great summer weekend. The weather looks like it's going to be super, super, super good. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Take care.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have History Magazine from our friends at Mind's Eye. At 2 o'clock is episode number 2 of We the Women by Nora O'Donnell. And at 3 o'clock is New York Magazine. Stay with us.
Sorry. Yeah, now we go. Jesus. Here's a movie review. 72 Hours Lingers Like a Bad Hangover from Brian Truitt. Watch the new multi-generational party comedy, 72 Hours, and you'll probably relate, age-wise, to either middle-aged Kevin Hart or his younger castmates, though it's more sad than actually funny, no matter how old you are. Hart has plenty of talent to riff off, including a trio of Saturday Night Live regulars, led by Marcelo Hernandez in 72 Hours, 1.5 stars, rated R, streaming now on Netflix. But the A-list comedian's inherent charm and hyperactive affability is wasted in this mismatch of The Hangover and Scarface. That way overcomplicates what should be a pretty fun dude movie. Joe Hart is a 40-year-old ad man who's in a creative rut. His pitches are just not connecting or hitting with Gen Z, and he's been issued an ultimatum. Win the business of a vodka brand and get an executive promotion, or else be fired. Weirdly, at the same time, Joe has been accidentally added to the group text of some gift-tossing guys planning a bachelor party in Miami, invited to their debaucherous 3-day spree. Joe gets the idea that if he can get to know them, their interests, and their habits, his work can benefit, even if it might tick off his ready-for-the-ring girlfriend Jennifer, played by Tiana Taylor. Though Joe is footing the bill for their swanky South Beach digs, he doesn't gel with the guys. Mason is the groom-to-be who's ready to hit the clubs. But questioning his next step in his life, Nick, played by Hernandez, is Mason's lifelong BFF, who's not crazy about Mason getting married or cool about this older guy hanging around. Though lovelorn Hunter, played by Ben Marshall, and flighty freshman Cam Patterson don't mind Joe as much. Joe uses a hidden camera in his necklace to capture this foursome in their element, yet from the start he tries too hard to be one of their own. He can't hang with their emotional check-ins, and it also doesn't help when Joe chugs a couple of Pepto bottles, because he's old, get it? Then upchucks it all over his new bros. It all somehow gets worse for them, and more cringe for us. From there, as the group ticks off a local drug lord, played by Michael Mando, and gets on the bad side of a downright villainous bachelorette party, who are barely in the movie, but are legit the most entertaining personalities in it. Directed by Tom Story, Think Like a Man, it's a mess of a film that, on paper, shouldn't be. The screenplay, by Cobra Kai creators and Harold and Kumar writers, John Hurwitz and Hayden Schlossberg, is totally all over the place, whipping to and from broad comedy shenanigans and deep dude drama about marriage and commitment. Hernandez and Marshall are a couple of SNL standouts, but they just don't spark much hilarity here, though the expressive Patterson, their late-night sketch cohort, is one of the film's real few highlights. Hart does what he can, but it's just not a lot to work with. The movie's constant jokes about his height get old quick, as does his Al Pacino and Scarface routine. When Joe snorts cocaine, he becomes a faux Cuban gangster. The gag is sort of amusing the first time, but becomes tired when it turns into a repeated plot point. It's just one of many failed gags in 72 Hours, a potentially clever and smart take on male friendships and next-gen technology that instead ruins its own party. Here's another movie review. Nolan crafts an ambiguous Odyssey finale. Patrick Ryan. Spoiler alert, we're discussing important details about the ending of the Odyssey. In theaters now. Stop reading if you haven't seen it yet and don't want to know what happens. By and large, Christopher Nolan plays by the book. The director's ambitious new take on the Odyssey honors everything you remember about Homer's mythic poem from 8th grade English class. Like the book, the movie follows Greek king Odysseus, played by Matt Damon, who spends 10 years at war and another decade lost at sea, encountering Cyclops, sirens, and giants along the way. But Nolan also throws a meditative new wrinkle into the story as Odysseus comes to grips with his role in the Trojan War, leading the charge as his men raped, murdered, and pillaged in his name. The character's remorse and disgrace become a pivotal part of the movie's third act, which ends almost entirely differently than Homer's nearly 3,000-year-old tome. How does the movie end? After losing all his men on his treacherous journey home, Odysseus returns to Ithaca, disguised as a haggard beggar, with the intent of reclaiming his throne from the dozens of suitors who have been harassing his wife, Penelope, Anne Hathaway, for years. His now grown son, Telemachus, Tom Holland, surely recognizes his father, although Penelope remains in the dark. Through a chilling flashback of the sacking of Troy, Odysseus explains that it's impossible to even truly feel at home again after the horrors that he's incited and witnessed. In one symbolic moment, we see a crestfallen Athena, Zendaya, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, decapitated by his army. Athena is a confidant of sorts to Odysseus throughout the film, and he worries that he's defiled the gods with his savage actions. Fed up with the suitors who have desecrated her palace, Penelope then poses an impossible task. If one of them can string Odysseus' old bow and shoot an arrow through 12 axes, she'll take that man's hand in marriage. One by one, suitors, including the devious Antinous, played by Robert Pattinson, fall until Odysseus volunteers and succeeds with ease. Odysseus reveals who he is, and with the help of Telemachus, kills the suitors in a fight to the death. But the showdown ends with the king wounded, telling Penelope that he would like to travel west to honor his fallen soldiers. The Odyssey culminates in Telemachus taking the throne as his father and mother sail off into the open ocean, gazing at the horizon and talking of brighter days ahead. The final moments of the movie jump around in time, making it unclear whether Odysseus really did go into self-imposed exile, or if he actually died right on the floor of the throne room before his dream could be realized. How does the book end? Speaking to USA Today before the film's release, with a mix of hope and cynicism about the state of the world, showing that human history is in many ways cyclical. To quote Nolan's own The Dark Knight, the night is darkest just before the dawn. Homer's book, meanwhile, is much tidier and outwardly optimistic. The gods are front and center in the finale. As Odysseus picks off Penelope's suitors in the throne room, Athena is up on the ceiling redirecting his opponent's spears, so none of them pierce Odysseus. After he casts out the servants who betrayed him, Athena pours attractiveness onto Odysseus to make him taller and stronger. Penelope initially struggles to accept that this youthful man is really Odysseus. She explains that she's dealt with so many dishonest, clever men over the last 20 years, and she can't tell whether he's another suitor just trying to trick her. But after a night of reminiscing and lovemaking, her skepticism melts, and the couple reforge their bond. War soon threatens to spill out again as the fallen suitors' families come together seeking vengeance. Concerned, Athena consults the all-powerful Zeus about what Odysseus should do. He's already punished all the suitors, so let him swear an oath that he'll be the king forever, Zeus tells Athena. And let us make sure the murder of their brothers and their sons will be forgotten. Let them all be friends, just as before, and let them live in peace and in prosperity. Athena commands that Odysseus and his men drop their weapons, or they risk the wrath of Zeus. And so, Homer's book concludes with these simple, yet anticlimactic, final words. He was glad to obey her. Then Athena made the warring sides swear solemn oaths of peace for future times, still in her guise as mentor. Here's the streaming. Canyon Breakout is bringing the heat, from Brian Alexander. There's so much for viewers of Netflix's Ransom Canyon to fall in love with, from the on-off romance between Staten Kirkland, played by Josh Duhamel, and Quinn O'Grady, Minka Kelly, to the sweeping Texas landscape, in fact filmed in New Mexico. But few characters inspired as much rabid online Ransom Canyon devotion as Jack Schumacher's mysterious cowboy, Yancey Gray. Schumacher, age 33, says he doesn't follow the online love, but Yancey becomes a breakout fan favorite even before his smoking episode 5 pre-rodeo workout montage, in which the shirtless ranch hand hurls a massive tractor tire while sporting seriously raging thomboids. If you're living on a farm and you don't have access to Equinox, you're going to use whatever you've got with you, the Los Angeles living Schumacher tells USA Today, acknowledging that jeans and a huge belt buckle weren't the ideal workout outfit for tractor tire lifting, even if they look good paired with the top. It wasn't comfortable. You might want a bit of Lululemon action if you're going to be doing that for real. Here's what to know about Schumacher's Yancey Gray, who's blowing up Season 2 of Ransom Canyon, now streaming. Tom Cruise had the need for Schumacher in Top Gun: Maverick. As a Los Angeles newbie, Schumacher recalls being blown away when his manager told him the producer and star Tom Cruise was personally reviewing his audition tape for 2022's Top Gun: Maverick. That was the trippiest call ever, to find out that Tom Cruise was watching my tape. I was like, "That Tom Cruise?" says Schumacher, who was cast as Lieutenant Neil Omaha Vikander, one of the Navy aviators training under Cruise's Maverick. That was an unbelievable experience from start to finish. It was even great after Omaha lost screen lines for story reasons. I have 3 or 4 lines in the original draft, says Schumacher, who understood when one film line went to Danny Ramirez as Lieutenant Mickey Fanboy Garcia during reshoots. It made sense because if you're watching the movie, why would Omaha step in with this quippy remark? It would have been like, "Wait, who's this guy?" Omaha does sing in the famed Great Balls of Fire piano sing. Yancey is in the center of the Ransom Canyon Season 2 drama. Getting the Ransom Canyon role as drifter ranch hand Yancey was huge for Schumacher, who is in the thick of Season 2 drama. Yancey's wedding plans with Ellie Estevez, Marilyn Tejada, are derailed by the arrival of his former con partner and currently legal wife, played by Chicago Fire star Heidi Grace Engerman. The revelation threatens everything Yancey has built, including his relationship with Ellie and his dream of holding on to his ranch. When my ex shows up in town, it really puts Yancey to the test. It takes everything to navigate, Schumacher says. It's like defusing a bomb. While he has a shady past, Yancey is a good man. The whole arc of Season 2 is Yancey being the man he knows he can be, says Schumacher, who loves the added Season 2 drama of Ellie's pregnancy. It really raises the stakes. It's hard to prepare for Ransom Canyon's shredded scenes. The role of often shirtless Yancey requires supreme dedication, with hours-long workouts and a daily diet that starts with a protein shake or bone broth. And then 4 p.m. hits, and I eat dinner like a 90-year-old person, says Schumacher. I have a giant dinner, usually a lot of meat. His biggest vice is sugar, specifically pies from Winston Pies in Studio City, California, near his home. I go there 3 times a week. It's embarrassing, Schumacher says. I'm 5 years sober from drugs and alcohol, but sugar still has my number. I'm working on that constantly. Shooting a ripped muscle moment requires a long build-up, during which Schumacher cuts down on water to highlight his physique leading up to the scene. If I'm trying to look as shredded as possible, I'll cut down on calories and water, which is the worst part of it, says Schumacher. On the day you feel horrible. So season 2, for those scenes where I have my shirt off, just know I'm not feeling so good. Schumacher paid $1,000 to learn he couldn't line dance. Don't expect to see Schumacher join in highly choreographed Ransom Canyon line dancing scenes, which feature stars such as Kelly along with professional dancers. I was hanging out on set watching the line dancing in season 1, and everyone's so good, like Minka, says Schumacher. And I am, without a doubt, the worst dancer in the world. But I was jealous. It was like, this looks really cool. Maybe I should figure out how to dance. When he returned to Los Angeles after season 1, Schumacher threw down for line dancing lessons. I spent like $1,000 to do private lessons because I was like, there's no way I can dance in front of other people, Schumacher says. After lesson 7, I asked my amazing dance instructor, am I the worst? Be honest. And she was like, yeah, you're pretty up there. I can't move my body. I just can't. So now we're going to the sports section, which is section C. The WNBA All-Star Game. Biggest snub, Copper gets a late call-up, from Heather Burns. The WNBA All-Star Game rosters are set as Chicago becomes the center of the women's basketball universe on July 24th and 25th. Phoenix Mercury forward Kahleah Copper was named to the 2026 WNBA All-Star Game on July 22nd as a replacement for injured Los Angeles Sparks guard Kelsey Plum, taking her spot on Team Coop with manager Cynthia Cooper. Under league rules, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert names replacements for injured All-Stars. Copper was arguably the most glaring omission when reserves were announced 2 weeks ago. She ranks 7th in the league in scoring at a team-leading 20.5 points per game. Copper had a career-high 41 against the Sparks on June 13th. The selection is the 5th for Copper, age 31, who made 4 straight All-Star games from 2021 to 24, a run that included the 2021 Finals MVP award with Chicago and an Olympic gold medal at the 2024 Paris Games. Now, in her 11th WNBA season, she returns to the All-Star stage in the city where she spent 7 years of her career. Plum's absence is unfortunate, given the Sparks guard was among the league's leading scorers at 23.9 points per game before a lower left leg injury last month. With the addition of the Mercury Star, 3 teams won't be represented in the game: the Chicago Sky, Connecticut Sun, and the Portland Fire. The All-Star Game is Saturday at the United Center, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, ABC Disney+, with rosters drafted by league legends Cynthia Cooper and Teresa Witherspoon, as part of the WNBA's 30th anniversary. WNBA All-Star rosters: Team Coop, Head Coach Becky Hammon, General Manager Cynthia Cooper. Starters: Golden State Valkyries forward Gabby Williams. The UConn product received her second All-Star nod and was selected a starter for the first time. Williams is averaging a career high in scoring with 15.9 points per game in her first year with the Valkyries. Dallas Wings guard Paige Bueckers. The 2025 reigning WNBA Rookie of the Year is having a strong second campaign, averaging 19.9 points, 5.9 assists, and 3.8 rebounds per game through 18 starts, all while shooting 51% from the floor. The 24-year-old UConn product has led the Wings' turnaround season, and the team's 11 victories at the halfway point surpassed last year's total, which is 10, the win mark. Bueckers became the fastest player in WNBA history to hit 1,000 points and 250 assists last month. New York Liberty forward Breanna Stewart. The 2026 WNBA Commissioner's Cup MVP is leading the Liberty in points, 19.2, steals, 1.4, and blocks, 1.3 in her 10th season in the league, while ranking second in rebounds, 8.5. Stewart has scored in double digits in all but one game this season, and her 7 doubles is tied for the 5th most in the league. It marks Stewart's 8th All-Star nod. Indiana Fever guard Kelsey Mitchell. She earned her 4th consecutive selection as an All-Star starter. Mitchell was drafted number 1 overall in 2018 out of Ohio State. She's averaging 21.6 points per game to lead the Fever. Indiana's all-time top scorer, Mitchell, has 11 games with at least 20 points this season. Minnesota Lynx forward Natasha Howard. The 6'2" forward picked up her 3rd All-Star nod and first since 2022 amid a renaissance season. Howard's 17.7 points per game is the second highest mark of her career, second only to her 2019 points campaign. Her stat line is rounded out by career highs in rebounds, 8.2, steals 1.9, and field goal percentage, 61.1%. Reserves: Atlanta Dream forward Angel Reese, Toronto Tempo guard Marina Mabrey, Seattle Storm center Dominique Malonga, Las Vegas Aces guard Jackie Young, Washington Mystics guard Sonia Citron, Phoenix Mercury guard Kalia Copper. Injury replacement for Los Angeles Sparks guard Kelsey Plum. Team Spoon, Head Coach Cheryl Reeve, General Manager Teresa Witherspoon. Starters: and Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark. The 6-foot guard is averaging career highs in points, 21.2, field goal percentage, 43%, and 3-point percentage, 34.4. And her 8.2 assists per game is second only to Phoenix Mercury forward Alyssa Thomas. Clark has scored in double-digit figures in all but one game this season, and she's doing so efficiently. Her 4.6 turnovers per game marks the lowest average of her career. Las Vegas Aces Ja'Ja Wilson. Wilson leads the league in scoring, 25.7 points per game, and blocks, 2 per game, averaging 9.4 rebounds, 2.9 assists, and 16 steals in 19 games, all starts. Wilson has recorded double-digit points in every game this season, including a 45-point performance against the Connecticut Sun on May 15th. She's grabbed 15 rebounds in 4 games this season. Minnesota Lynx guard Olivia Miles. Miles has been the bus driver for the Lynx, powering them to a WNBA best 15-4 record this season. The New Jersey native leads all rookies in scoring, 18.7, and assists, 5.7, which ranks 9th and 8th in the league respectively. Miles hit a record 8 three-pointers in the Lynx's 87-84 victory over the Golden State Valkyries on June 5th to break Caitlin Clark's rookie record for three-pointers in a game. Indiana Fever center Aliyah Boston. Boston earned her 4th consecutive All-Star nod after averaging a career-high 17 points, 8.6 rebounds, and 2.9 assists while shooting 50.2% from the field. And the 6'5" center has been developing her three-point shot. She's shooting a career-high 42.6% from deep, and her 20 made three-pointers surpasses last year's total, which was 6, only 18 games into the season. Dallas Wings forward Jessica Shepard. Shepard's career year has resulted in her first All-Star nod. The 6'4" forward is averaging career highs in points, 14.3, rebounds 11.5, and assists 5.5, after sliding into the starting lineup for the Wings. Shepard owns the only 2 triple-doubles thus far this season. The reserves: Atlanta Dream guard Ryan Howard, Atlanta Dream guard Alicia Gray, New York Liberty forward Jonquil Jones, Minnesota Lynx guard Courtney Williams, Washington Mystics forward Kid Rafin, Los Angeles Sparks forward Nika Ovomike. Commentary. Cup let North America show off for the world, from John Arnold. The 2026 World Cup is over. What will its legacy be? For the first time, the tournament was played across 3 host nations, with more than 100 matches in an expanded format taking place in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. There were hydration breaks implemented by FIFA all over venues rather than only the outdoor stadiums when heat was a factor. There were multiple opening ceremonies. There was a halftime show. While plenty have accused this of being the latest American innovation to invade soccer, that is confusion with the United States' closeness to capitalism. FIFA implemented these spectacles. That word may be generous to what the hydration break is, and will likely look to keep them in place as earning opportunities. But while the tournament will be remembered as the launching off point for change, we'd rather not see made what about the effect the World Cup had on its host countries. What did the U.S. states show the world during the World Cup? The World Cup put the best of the U.S. on display. All over the country, people worked to help fans find the stadium, get around town, try a local delicacy, or have a few drinks together. The relationship that blossomed between Algeria and Lawrence, with University of Kansas students and alumni twisting their normal chant and saying "Rock Chalk Algeria," was beautiful. So too was that between eventual champion Spain and its base camp in southern Tennessee. Who would have thought Louisiana Yamal would utter the phrase, "It's really nice. Soccer has given me this opportunity to be known in Chattanooga," for example. The big cities also played their part. Stadiums filled with diehard fans, but also local neutrals, who chanted along with Cape Verde fans or bought a new shirt to support a team for the day. Those unable to afford the ticket prices, which never went down from their ridiculous starting point, took to the streets to watch matches, at fan fests, in bars, and in other spots around town, with many cities taking stride to make sure the matches were accessible to anyone who wanted to feel the World Cup excitement. It wasn't a perfect World Cup. There was never justification enough provided for excluding Omar Artan, the 2025 CAF Referee of the Year, from the country. Iran's treatment was unlike any other country's, putting up obstacles Team Melli had to overcome that no other team faced. And of course, President Donald Trump's attempt to get involved in FIFA disciplinary matters after Ballon was chosen a red card, and the president sticking around for Spain's celebratory photo as President Gianni Infantino tried to whisk him away was unnecessary, even if unsurprising. It's fair to be skeptical of viral Twitter stars Freddie's U.S. journey and of many other overly curated moments. But the people of Lawrence, Chattanooga, Greensboro, North Carolina, Wilmington, Delaware, and all over the U.S. gave many genuine examples of what America's character is and can be beyond its politicians. The tournament's success is not in the record TV ratings, the huge number of fans who went to the stadium, or even in future soccer trophies lifted by players inspired by the 2026 tournament, but rather in the small moments of cultural exchange that happen in every tournament. Did the World Cup boost Mexico's international reputation? Mexico didn't have to deal with many of the issues that dogged the U.S. during the tournament. In fact, Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum eagerly positioned Mexico as the answer to FIFA's issues. Iran moved to a base camp in Tijuana, where it became a favorite team for many fans used to rooting for Xolos, the usual tenant of Estadio Caliente. The good vibes were desperately needed in Mexico. Violence in late February, after the capture and killing of cartel leader Nemesio Ercegin Cervantes, better known by his nickname El Mencho, postponed local matches and had organizations on high alert. While the intercontinental playoffs slated for Guadalajara and Monterrey went off without any issues, there still were some concerns from government officials, organizers, and fans that there could be an incident. Instead, just like in the U.S., the Mexican people were able to show who they are beyond their government, or a people struggling with the narco-violence that dominates the headlines about the country around the world. FanFests were brimmed with singing fans, many who ended up tossing TV reporters, content creators, and fellow supporters in the air as they enjoyed the revelry of a home World Cup. In the stadiums, support for Mexico was immense, and other than a storybook comeback against England in the round of 16, El-Tri did everything they could to give fans what they hoped the tournament would be. There was Guillermo Ochoa's send-off, a knockout round win, bright spots from players who should star in the future. It was a rekindling of the relationship between the Mexico national team and its passionate but demanding fan base. It also was a reminder to the world that Mexico is a nation that should be characterized by much more than its struggle with organized crime groups. How did Canada experience the World Cup? For Canada, the tournament can be seen as a clear marker for the sport. Canada's men's national team entered the summer never having achieved a point at a World Cup. Now, manager Jesse Marsch's group can tick off its first point, its first win, and its first knockout win. Canada bowed out in round of 16, falling 3-0 to Morocco, despite a super first half against the North African squad. Much like its neighbors, the biggest echo will be heard not from what happened on the field, but what happened off it. Canada fans filled streets on their march to matches. For so long, supporter groups like the Voyageurs have been small but mighty. The people who headed to the World Cup venues and filled the stands showed that men's soccer certainly has arrived in Canada. The Canadian women's national team already has been a consistent competitor, winning gold in the 2020 Olympics. Canada also successfully hosted the 2015 Women's World Cup. This time, the image was one of a nation that will continue to be a hockey country. That, of course, is heritage commemorated in plenty of one-minute films. But there will be plenty of boys who saw the spectacle this summer and decide they could be the next Jonathan David, Steven Esquero, or Sile Larin. What did the World Cup mean to North America? Sheinbaum and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney joined Trump at the final, helping to award players their medals. The first time the leaders had come together was for the World Cup draw. Now, there are more natural meeting points. The heads of state must come together in more traditional settings, at conferences, at formal meetings, at least until the 2028 Olympics takes place in Los Angeles. What did the World Cup leave North America? It should be a moment of unity for the three North American nations. There are more shared fibers than simply enjoying soccer and being really good at putting on fun events. There's more that unites than divides. Yet, in the current political climate, it is likely that it will be on the people to show that truth and to remember it. You're listening to a reading of today's issue of the USA Today on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time is 52 minutes after the hour. American League champs fell quickly. Deadline may break up the Blue Jays. From Gabe Black. It's getting grim very early in Toronto. Sentimental glances at the diamond grim. Quite uncertainty in the clubhouse grim. 6 teams to catch before even thinking about a playoff spot grim. Yes, your defending American League champion Toronto Blue Jays are feeling it. Not that glorious buzz that electrified their clubhouse, their city, and most of Canada a year ago, but rather the sensation that all of this will be broken up long before anyone imagined, and there's nobody but themselves to blame. These Blue Jays were 46-56 after the first place Tampa Bay Rays won a third consecutive game at Rogers Center, a 4-2 victory July 22nd. Toronto was 13.5 games out of first going into the series finale Thursday. More important, the Jays are showing few, if any, signs of altering their fate before the August 3rd trade deadline. They've scored 402 runs, fewest in the majors, have 16 multi-error games, a pitching staff ravaged by injury and middling performance. And suddenly, a palpable feeling the band is breaking up. Taylor Gossman knows. The wife of ace Kevin Gossman has seen him in deadline deal before and is well aware his 5-year, $110 million deal expires after the season. Gossman has contemplated retirement after the season. With that in mind, Taylor hopped a flight from their Louisiana home to Toronto, where Gossman started against the Rays on Tuesday. She snapped a photo of him pitching and surprised him with her presence, and even coaxed him back onto the playing surface long after the game ended. Too soon to reminisce? Well, it certainly could have been Gossman's last start at Rogers Center. She just kind of told me, like, hey, let's go onto the field for a little while. Not really thinking too much of it, but now I'm glad we did, he told Sportsnet. The biggest thing, I really hope that I'm able to come back here, at least next weekend, just like one last time. Whoa, the Blue Jays are not yet dead set on selling the expanded player format. Means you're never truly out of it. Yet, maybe the Blue Jays have seen enough to know that a stealthy sprint down the backstretch into contention simply isn't coming. All falls down. Vlad Guerrero Jr. chose Happiness Wednesday. greeting fans attending batting practice with high fives, and then firing up his dugout after hitting a double that led to the Blue Jays' first run. By the end of the night, though, this stunning fact remained. Guerrero had yet to hit a home run at Rogers Center this season. There are baseball stats that border on minutiae that can deceive or are missing crucial context. Yet there's a little more to interpret from this. Guerrero, in the first year of a 14-year, $500 million contract, hasn't hit a home run in his home ballpark. A cynic might note that on the bright side, Guerrero still has 13 more seasons to go at home. The overall lack of production, though, he's got 6 home runs and at .689 OPS, that's 11% below league average, is alarming. Now that's the only thing that's killing the Jays. For a while there, rookie Kazuma Akimoto was one of the few sentient pieces of the offseason, posting a 1.026 OPS and hitting 7 homers in a 3-week span of June. Thursday, in what amounted to a do-or-die kind of game against the Bays, he was benched. That's what a 0 for 18 and a 10 for 67 slide in your last 18 games will get you. He has hit 22 home runs, and his first season since coming over from Japan will largely be viewed as a success, and he remains a key part of the future. It's just that in this season, the bottom fell out at the wrong time. Other failings are harder to grasp. Dalton Varsho is a Gold Glove winner, a valued part of the Blue Jays core. Yet this iteration of Varsho has seen his outs above average dip to 5 after posting 9 and 15 in his previous 2 seasons. This Varsho committed errors on consecutive nights against Tampa Bay, simply dropping a Yandy Diaz fly at the wall Wednesday, sparking a 3-run inning that snapped a 1-1 tie. Nothing felonious. Just more anecdotal data points that it's simply not happening for these guys. Trade chips, a whole bag full, and suddenly we have a most unlikely pop-up seller. It never seemed like it'd come to this. Baseball fandom gets so swept up in the binary buy-sell shtick that ancillary factors, such as the state of a franchise at a given time, and its objectives for the near and long term, can be forgotten. Coming into 2026, the last thing the Blue Jays needed to do was sell. The fervor and popularity in Toronto has once again, finally, reached early 1990s and mid-2010s level. A $500 million renovation of Rogers Center paired with a charismatic and winning team means crowds of 42,000 stuffing themselves into the retractable roof stadium. No finer place to watch a game when the roof is open and the summer nights are long. Shoot, the club's parent company, Rogers Communications, reported that sports and media revenue was up 13% in the second quarter, largely driven by Blue Jays-related revenue, thanks to 95% of the seats filled for home games. That drove a tacit understanding from the overlords at Rogers to club president Mark Shapiro and baseball operations chief Ross Atkins, down to manager John Schneider, that this was once again a go-for-it year. That falling 2 outs shy out of a World Series title and 2025 laid a foundation that, with a few tweaks and additions, would see the team over the top, or at least playing well into October again. Instead, the trade market is set to receive a significant transfusion from Toronto. You want pitching? Gausman remains one of the game's most reliable starters and has only a limited no-trade clause with Milwaukee, Detroit, Pittsburgh, and the Chicago White Sox, the only contenders out on it, according to multiple reports. Shane Bieber just talked tossed 6 scoreless innings at the White Sox, the best of his 5 starts after missing the season's first 3 months due to arm woes. He too will be a free agent at season's end, and lurking in Class AAA, completing another rehab start without incident Wednesday, 2-time World Series champion Max Scherzer reacted to duct tape himself for another October run. You want outfielders? George Springer has 2 and 5 no-trade rights and has been hanging up this year. But you think the pending free agent would like another crack at a World Series? Perhaps he's exactly what the Philadelphia Phillies have been missing. Varsho and Miles Straw won't galvanize a lineup, but an elite defense players, and Straw emerged as a clubhouse glue guy in Toronto. Both are on expiring contracts, too. Need a bullpen? John Hoffman's staff remains good, even after he struggled following his soul-crushing World Series finish. He's due $11 million in 2027. And then there's Louis Varland, who could bring a significant return after his playoff heroics a year ago. We're backed up by an all-star first half. He'll have 4 years of team control after this season and could fetch the kind of impact players who could help the Blue Jays sooner rather than later. As for now, Varland has summoned in the 9th inning Wednesday, down 4-2, glorified mop-up work for a guy who'd only pitched 4 times this month. The Blue Jays would love to keep him for many years, but constructing a bullpen can wait until 2027. It's just that 2027 was the last thing on Toronto's mind, even a few days ago. But reality is getting hard to ignore. So here's one from golf. Aaron Wise playing well again on comeback, from Adam Shuppick. Aaron Wise's Instagram bio says, "Truly blessed to be able to do what I do." But for a time, being a professional golfer and playing the game that he loved was the last thing he wanted to do. Suffering from depression, he withdrew from the 2023 Masters. That one killed me. I knew there was no way I could go there and shoot a respectable score around that place, he said on July 22nd at the 3M Open. It was one of the hardest things to do, but also the start of it all, and getting back to feeling like myself, so I'm happy I did it. Having stepped away for an extended break, Wise, who was a star at University of Oregon, a PGA Tour winner at the age of 21, and 2018 Rookie of the Year, is mounting a comeback after prioritizing his mental health. Wise, age 30, had made the 2023 Tour Championship, finishing among the top 30 in the FedEx Cup seasoning points top race this season. But that fall, he could tell something was awry. He couldn't pinpoint what it was. But it began snowballing, and he remembers not wanting to go to dinner with his wife and mother-in-law during the World Golf Championships match play. I just kept trying to go with the old adage of growing to push through it. I'm going to try harder, he said. The irony of Wise struggling mentally wasn't lost on Casey Martin, who in his 21 years as the men's golf coach at the University of Oregon called Wise the most mentally tough player he has coached. Disciplined, confident, and oozing self-belief that was contagious to his teammates and spurred them to win the 2016 national title. He was an absolute rock mentally, Martin said. It speaks to how no one is immune to it. This game is hard and it can really crack you. To Aaron's credit, he's fighting through it. About 4 or 5 months after he took his tour hiatus, Wise met Dr. Izzy Justice, a neuroscientist who helped him make sense of what he was experiencing. He was the first person who kind of sat down and explained to me, what you're feeling isn't just random. It's a culmination of what you're doing off the course. things that have happened in your life, what's happened on the course. This is kind of where your brain is, and this is why you feel the way you feel, and this is why you have the thoughts you're having. He was the first person that kind of simplified all that, and it made sense to me, Wise recalled. They developed a plan that, in simple terms, aims to declutter his mind. It was a lengthy process, and even 3 months before Wise started his comeback, he didn't know if a return was possible. You shoot the scores at home, but you don't know how it's going to translate out here, he said. At first, when Wise began playing with other golfers, he struggled again. His comeback has hit a few bumps. After playing in the 2024 Puerto Rico Open, he withdrew the following week at the Valspar Championship after the Pro-Am. That day ruined me, and I withdrew. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This is crazy, he said. Wise came back last season and made 1 cut in 7 starts. He has made strides, but admits playing the tour is a daily battle for him. He missed the cut at the first 6 events he played this season. He could have been deflated, but rather he was eager to try to figure out what was holding him back. The most frustrating part, he said, was that he only got 2 competitive rounds before being sent packing. He wanted more opportunities to plot a course, getting better. There have been baby steps, beginning with 1 good round at the Myrtle Beach Classic, a 67, but he ballooned to a 79 and another missed cut. Then he worked at putting 2 good rounds together, and then a third. He was lurking heading into the final round of the John Deere Classic, but struggled to 1 over 72 on Sunday and finished tied for 39th. But 1 week later, he played in the final group at the ISCO Championship, marking his first time in the last group since the 2023 Memorial Tournament, where he finished second. Wise shot 69 and finished 7-3, and last week he was T18 at the Punta Cana Championship. My brain, it's got half the stuff as it used to, he said. It's been a long process to figure out how to have a clear head over the golf ball. What we do is very stressful. To have to be on for as long as we are, for 5, 6, 7 hours out here every day, then especially when you start stacking weeks. Like, this is my 4th week in a row now, and I'm going to play all the way through. So I've got 6 tournaments in a row. Even though it's stressful, we're supposed to like being out here. We started playing golf because we love this game. Kind of keeping that at the forefront, even when, hey, you might hit a bad shot in a very high-pressure moment. Like, it's not the end of the world, you know. Wise is encouraged by his back-to-back top 15s for the first time since 2022. But he also knows he's a work in progress. That's why his wife, Reagan, is the glue in his support system. She made headlines when she checked him after lone win in Dallas in 2018, back when they were still dating. She has been his caddy since his return to the tour. She's been there every step of the way and a calming presence. She's someone that I can turn to, and however I'm feeling, whatever thoughts I'm having, whatever I'm going through, I can just be 100% truthful and honest with her, and we can kind of work through whatever comes up together, he said. I feel like having someone on my bag that knows what I've been through and knows how to calm my brain down is way more important for me than someone right now who can help pull me up the right club if it makes sense. Golf is as much a mental game as it is one of physical skill. Wise is in a better place to play the game he's loved since he was a kid, and he also wants to use his experience figuring out the mental puzzle to help others who may be struggling with mental health. It's been a long process, but at long last his Instagram bio rings true again. He feels blessed to be a professional golfer and to tee it up this week at the 3M Open. Not just an every 4-year fling. After falling in love with soccer during the World Cup, the joy doesn't have to stop. From John Arnold. The World Cup's over. Judging from the TV ratings, there's a good chance you tune in. What now? There's plenty more soccer out there to enjoy, but it spreads out in front of you like a buffet. You can have a little of this and a little of that, or fill up your plate and go back for more, as often as you like. That's the blessing of soccer, although it can also be its curse. You start out liking an Erling Haaland post. You end up getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go to a pub that opens up to show European matches and end the night at your local stadium, realizing your whole Saturday's gone. But that's not necessary, and while some soccer fans will try to convince you, there's a right way to enjoy the sport. Pay no mind to those who say you have to consume one thing or another. One of the beauties of soccer is that you can find what resonates with you and keeps digging deeper and deeper, or just stay a casual and only time in for certain matches. That said, one of the best ways to get involved in soccer is to look around your own community. You can support your local team, whether it be major soccer, NWSL, USI, college, or youth. There likely is a soccer team near you. Worldwide, supporting a local team is one of the most common reflections of soccer fandom. Those teams represent a neighborhood, a city, or a region, ideally serving as something locals can identify with and feel represented by. Fan groups often form up around those teams, with seat neighbors turning into longtime friends. Get geared up for the next World Cup. The next Senior World Cup will take place in less than a year, with the Women's World Cup in Brazil taking the spotlight. There are plenty of reasons to get excited for the tournament. We ran through the 5 right here, whether it's a stacked Spain trying to repeat, a U.S. team trying to bounce back from a worst-ever finish in Australia and New Zealand, or the Brazilians trying to light a soccer-obsessed nation. There are many interesting narratives that'll be worth tracking. While many teams are already qualified, the U.S. and its regional rivals, Canada, Mexico, and Jamaica, among others, will look to earn its place in Brazil in November. Before that, it meets reigning champion Spain in a pair of highly and anticipated fall-friendly matches. Look into the international game. Maybe you realize you just wanted to follow the U.S. men's team or another preferred team that came onto your radar, or the World Cup. International matches are played during international breaks or FIFA windows, times in the calendar when all players are required to be given leave from their clubs to join up with their national teams. Those teams will be back in action in September, with the U.S. taking part in a quartet of friendly matches before playing a CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinal in the November window. Mexico's in the same situation. European teams began contesting the UEFA Nations League in September, with Spain manager Luis de la Puente half joking after winning the World Cup that his team already is getting ready for a big-ticket meeting with England. There are also rumors that the Finalissima, a match between the European and South American champions, may be rescheduled this fall after the war in Iran kept it from being played in Qatar in March 2026 as planned. That would mean a quick final rematch, just months after Sunday's showdown. African teams jumped to qualification for the African Cup of Nations, while Asian and South American nations will be tuning up in friendly matches. Do you just love international tournaments in general? Next up is the men's game in 2027 Asian Cup. That'll see Qatar looking to defend its title after a dour showing at the World Cup, while Japan, Korea, Iran, and Australia hope to win a continental crown. The 2 most prestigious continental tournaments, the Euros and Copa America, are scheduled the summer of 2028. Follow the player or team who captured your heart. While there's no international soccer at the moment, those guys you fell for are back to their clubs where they play the majority of their soccer. Most European leagues are available to view.
The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a serialized book